Give up or it'll get ugly. EU scolds UK for standoff and warns of sour fate. Britain is running the risk of antagonising Brussels with its stance on the Northern Ireland Protocol, European Commission Maros Sefcovic has said, in what observers are sure to view as an implied threat. Meanwhile, Brexit naysayers carping about a bumper UK trade agreement with Australia over concerns about the proposed removal of tariffs have been told they risk derailing Prime Minister Boris Johnson's Global Britain vision, with the result that the UK will still be tied to Brussels. Mr. Sefcovic, the bloc's point man when it comes to relations with Britain, claimed the bloc was showing creativity and pragmatism, but claimed London was not returning the favour. The Northern Ireland Protocol is the mechanism by which a hard border was averted on the island of Ireland, but critics claim it has simply resulted in a border down the Irish Sea instead. The EU is unhappy at the UK unilaterally extending the grace period during which fewer checks apply. Mr. Sefcovic told the Financial Times, "To be quite honest, all these solutions are coming from our side. It's quite clear that, if we do not see positive developments, that the atmosphere would be more sour, making it more difficult to look for political compromises. The political environment would be much more challenging." Separately, Jane Addy issued her warning at the end of a week in which splits were revealed in cabinet between International Trade Secretary Liz Truss, who is working feverishly to get a deal over the line, and Environment Secretary George Eustace, who has voiced grave concerns over the plan, which would see tariffs phased out over a 15-year period. The National Farmers Union is also opposed to the plan as things stand, with General Secretary Minette Batters describing the planned agreement as incredibly concerning while claiming it would offer incredibly little benefit to the economy. However, Mrs. Addy, director of grassroots pro-Brexit campaign group Get Britain Out, said, "Since we joined the European Economic Community back in 1973, the United Kingdom has been unable to pursue our own global trading agenda. Now it seems this lack of experience in the negotiations by public figures and media interference is threatening to derail global Britain with a new form of Project Fear. She added, "My preference will always be to buy British, but if my alternative is to support the EU, which sees us as an enemy, or to support goods from a Commonwealth ally with whom we have good relations, then I know what I would put in my shopping basket." Decades of protectionism inside the EU, with the common agricultural policy handing out subsidies to many of the richest farmers and landowners, this has left our agricultural industry in a rut. If extra competition meant UK consumers ended up with better products and a greater variety at a reduced cost, Mr. Johnson's approach will have been vindicated, as well as demonstrating the UK's willingness to embrace a global expansion, Ms. Addy said. She added, "I would remind everyone we already have a tariff and quota-free deal with the EU, and have done for decades, even though standards are much lower in some member states and cheaper products are available. Yet UK farmers have survived, and in fact, they pushed vigorously for an EU trade deal. Why is a tariff and quota-free deal with the EU, which is right on our borders, more acceptable than a similar deal with the much smaller market of Australia? If we do not push back against these doomsday messages and understand the fact changes need to be made, then we will end up with few new trade deals, and still tied into the EU's backwards protectionist approach, killing the ambition of global Britain and making our successful fight to get Britain out of the EU a very hollow victory."